Hey folks, this week we're going to be doing things a little bit differently on Legally Owned America. We're going to be bringing you the first of a two-part series where we submitted questions, 10 questions, to the 7 congressional candidates for the 3rd District here in South Louisiana. It's the congressional race that's coming up next month. We feel this is very important. The Second Amendment is extremely important, and personally as a voter, I want to know exactly where these guys stand. So I sent out a questionnaire to all 7 candidates. And again, here is the first, I believe we got the first 5 questions today. Next Sunday, we're going to bring you the next 5 questions right here on Fox 29. So I hope you guys enjoy the show. 1 month from now, we'll be electing a brand new congressperson for the 3rd congressional seat in Louisiana. 1 month from now, in November. Clay Higgins is the one that's in that seat right now, and he is a Republican. And he has some pro-gun views. We'll get more into that in a minute. I'll tell you guys what I did. There's 7 people running, and we'll go through their names in a second here. What I did is I took 10 questions of my own that were Second Amendment related. I have to honestly say that I'm one of those kind of guys that feels the Second Amendment is so strong because it enforces and protects so many of the other amendments in our Constitution, which is the law of the land, by the way, that I am in many cases, a one policy voter. Because typically you will find that people who are voting in my direction for the Second Amendment usually follow almost every other thing that I'm for and that I may vote for. But I feel like this is such a strong and big deal when you have the Second Amendment involved that's going to trump, that's going to carry so much more weight than anything else out there. And look, we're in the sportsman's paradise. We're in South Louisiana where this congressional district is. I'm not the only one that feels this way. This is a big time gun loving area. So while some of the candidates may not have thought my 10 number questionnaire was that important, and one even blew me off and never even responded, I think you guys will agree that this is a big topic for South Louisiana. I'm going to get right into this. Again, we have 7 candidates. They are Rob Anderson, who is a Democrat, Clay Higgins, who is the incumbent, he is a Republican, Verone Thomas, who is a Democrat, Erin Andrus, who is a Libertarian, Josh Guillory, who is a Republican, Mimi Methvin, who is a Democrat, and Larry Rader, who is also a Democrat. Now, Larry, along with all of these other guys, Rob, Clay, Verone, Erin, Josh, Mimi, and Larry, all received the exact amount of correspondence from me to them. I'm just saying this ahead of time for the sake of full disclosure. I sent out an email asking them for some correspondence back to me. I also, the ones that could not be reached, I not only followed up on their Facebook accounts, I guess their campaign accounts, I should say, but the ones that still didn't respond after getting direct emails to their campaigns and Facebook messages directly to their campaigns, when they still didn't respond, I sought them out in many cases on pages where they were active. There was one particular candidate that's really active on a local Facebook page that covers political issues, and he was he was offended that I sought him out because he had ignored all my other responses. But guess what? He responded to me. So if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. We're the media. I'm not here to make anybody feel good about themselves any more than I expect compliments from anybody out there. And I'm not going to show favoritism to any of these guys. I don't know who's going to win, but I don't care who's going to win. They're all going to get treated the same. And I will say that Rob Anderson, Clay Higgins, Verone Thomas, Erin Andrus, Josh Guillory, Mimi Methvin, they all responded to me eventually. Again, one of them took a little bit extra coaxing, but Larry Rader never responded to me. He never responded to emails. He never responded to Facebook messages. I couldn't find any posts that he was making online that I could go say, hey, Larry, you know, I'm trying to reach you, buddy. Never a response. I know Larry's getting my messages. Larry is a Democrat. And Larry probably knows that there's no really good answers that he can give if he sticks to his guns, no pun intended, in the sportsman's paradise, which is South Louisiana. So he chose to ignore me. That's fine. Larry is going to find out what the importance of social media is, because at least you have your say when you respond. When you don't respond, I'm just going to assume based on what your platform is, what your position is on all of these answers. Because guess what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to answer for Larry on all of these questions that we give you today. So let's get right into it. I've got 10 questions. Again, all these were put together by our team, sent them out to these candidates. I told all of them because we know how politicians speak. It's called politispeak. They don't like to answer the questions. Many times, all we really need is a simple yes or no answer. So what I did is I told these people, and I elaborated in my letter more than once, that I'm not looking for you to filibuster or to ad lib. I need a simple yes or no, and then you can add on to whatever you want, and you can just tell me all your feelings about that particular question. But I need a yes and I need a no before I get any elaboration on what you think on that topic. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read each question, and then I'm going to give you each one of them's answer. If anyone elaborated on that particular question, I am going to give you their elaboration and the rest of their spill. Some of them I wish they would have elaborated because their answers don't align with what their actual policy and beliefs are, at least what I've seen on their websites and their Facebook pages according to where they stand on certain platforms. Let's get right into it. The first question that I gave to them was, do you support an individual's right to keep and bear arms as stated in the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution? I know that's simple, but I wanted to get that one out of the way quickly because this is the way I look at it. If one of these 7 is going to be our next representative, right? One of these. You have your incumbent and the other guys that are trying to unseat him. So I want to know that if this person that goes to represent this 3rd Congressional District in Washington, D.C., if they do not do what they told me they were going to do, which might be something as simple as saying that everyone has the individual right to keep and bear arms, I'm going to call them on it. And I'm going to openly call them on it. I'm going to do it on our show on Fox Network, and I'm going to do it on the internet. And you guys will see this video. So that's why I put such a vanilla question, if you will, that is so big and encompassing. Rob Anderson, he says, yes, the Bill of Rights addresses firearms in Amendment 2. The key language is shall not be infringed. That is coming from a Democrat. So let's keep this in mind. This is, I'm going to give you their parties. Because we know once these folks go to Washington, D.C., that Dianne Feinstein and Chuck Schumer on the other side and all the Democrats that are hardcore against guns in the House are going to hammer these people. And they're going to have to rethink some of these answers because I don't think that if Rob is elected, he's going to get away with standing in front of these anti-gun people in Washington, D.C. and saying, shall not be infringed is the key language in the Constitution. Don't think that's going to happen. I'm speculating. So let's see. Clay Higgins, the incumbent. Asking if he supported the right to keep and bear arms, all Clay answered was yes. No elaboration whatsoever. Not a problem. All he said was yes. Verone Thomas is next. Same answer, or excuse me, same question. Do you support an individual right to keep and bear arms as stated in the Constitution? Verone says yes. Aaron Andrus, who is the Libertarian, and again, I'm not picking on these guys for whatever party they are. I just want to keep reminding you what party they belong to so you can kind of understand that if they're giving me politispeak or if you feel like they really are legitimately answering these truthfully. Let's see. Aaron answers the question, yes. That's all he said. And again, no elaboration, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. Josh Guillory, who is the Republican, he answered with a simple yes, that he supports the Constitution. Interesting. Mimi Methvin is my last one in the questions here is in terms of the order that she falls. Mimi is a Democrat, and I believe she probably feels like she has a good chance to be in the runoff because there will obviously or most likely be a runoff if one of these candidates does not get 50 plus 1% of the votes. So she's taking the high road. She simply sent me an email that said, Mr. Glasgow, thank you for your email. My position on the Second Amendment and guns in our society are available on my website here. Best regards, Mimi Methvin. And she gives me the link. I will go ahead and use, and I told her, I responded to the email and I told her, thank you, I'm just going to use the information from your website to go ahead and answer these questions for you. And I'm paraphrasing, I don't know exactly how I worded it, but it was pretty much letting her know I will answer these based on the information you've provided on your website. So I will have to say that on the first one, her answer is yes, because she says it on our website. I numbered these based on what question she was trying to answer with her statement here on the website. So I'll read what she has on there. I support the Second Amendment. I grew up with guns. Hunting was one of my dad's greatest passions. We grew up eating venison and always had ducks in the freezer from Dad's hunts at his beloved duck camp in Cameron. Great. That's awesome. Glad to hear it. She is for the Second Amendment. Let's move on to question number 2 now. Number 2, do you think law-abiding Americans should be able to purchase and possess modern sporting rifles, sometimes referred to as assault rifles? Now, understand that I'm wording these questions properly, but I'm using quotes when necessary, like whenever I call an assault weapon. You have to understand, and I'm sure you guys do, that people who aren't staunch Second Amendment supporters, they might think there is a legitimate name called assault weapons, even though you and I both know that that is not true. We'll get into it in another video. Assault rifles is an actual military term that's used to describe an intermediate rounded a gun. But there's no such thing as an assault weapon. If there is, it's too overencompassing, which includes baseball bats, spoons, whatever you want, rubber bats, anything like that. Anything that could be used to attack somebody is an assault weapon at that point. So again, to read it one more time, do you think law-abiding Americans should be able to purchase and possess modern sporting rifles, sometimes referred to as assault rifles? Okay, same order, Rob Anderson. Rob Anderson comments, yes, exclamation point. In most gun-related shootings, the perpetrator uses a handgun or shotgun. Banning what some call assault rifles does not address either the weapons of choice or those set on doing others harm, nor does a ban address the underlying causes of violence in society. Thank you. Rob, you sound like a Republican. You are, in fact, a Democrat. So you're getting high marks of praise as far as I'm concerned. And let's see, Clay Higgins falls in line next at number 2. Clay simply responded, yes, he supports our rights to have modern sporting rifles, AR-15s, AK-47s. Verone Thomas is a Democrat, and he is next, and he simply responds, yes, he supports our right to have assault weapons. I think it's important that you look at any of these guys, actually, because there are Republicans that are rhinos that will roll in a heartbeat depending on which way the emotion is flowing in the United States. They'll turn anti-Second Amendment in a heartbeat. So don't get too caught up in everybody's answers. But I want to draw particular attention to the Democrats that are on here that are saying the things that we want to hear, if you know what I mean. Because I'm going to call them on it. So if one of these guys goes to Washington, and even if it's a Republican, and they support a ban on AR-15s of any kind, and they answered yes here, I'm going to call them on it. Just letting you guys know. I know I'm repeating myself on that, but it's worth repeating because I'm not going to allow these people to use my platform to further their own agenda, even if it's not their actual agenda. In other words, they're trying to feed me what we want to hear, and I'm going to make sure that I call them on that. Aaron Andrus is next. Aaron also responded simply, if law-abiding Americans should have modern sporting rifles or assault rifles, yes. No elaboration, fine. Josh Guillory, he answers yes also. So far, everybody's really liking this. Oh, never mind. Next up is Mimi Methvin. Mimi Methvin is a resounding no on AR-15s. If she's not, then answer the question, Mimi, instead of sending me to your website. Let's not be rude about it. So if you disagree with the answer that I'm going to be giving on your behalf, you can reach out to me and give the correct answer if I'm wrong. However, I'm left with using your website, which says, as a member of Congress, I will stand with the veterans and others in Congress who support restrictions on sale of assault weapons such as the AR-15. Okay, again, she's saying that veterans and others in Congress support restrictions on sale of assault weapons such as the AR-15. Again, she's even clarifying because she must know that assault weapons is not an actual name. So Mimi is a resounding no, that she does not support us having AR-15s. So I guess her dad only uses a bolt gun when he shoots venison. I know a lot of people that use AR-15 style weapons, a lot, whenever they hunt. So clearly these are some people that are not really exposed to the same reality that we're exposed to. So again, she's a resounding no. Now, Larry Rader, again, who did not respond to me at all, we're going to put that he doesn't think that we should have AR-15s too. Simply because he's going to get painted into a corner of all the other Democrats who don't want us to have AR-15s. So sorry, Larry, if you would have responded, you could have represented yourself here. I'm not going to represent you for you. I'm not going to go out there and campaign for you. If you want to give an answer that's going to attract people to vote for you, you have to give it. I'm not giving it for you. Okay, I hope you guys are enjoying this so far. Yeah, I mean, don't take anything from the candidates. If you have questions, ask them just like we're asking them. It's not only certain people that can ask these guys questions. Out of these 7 folks that are running, if you want to know something and they don't want to tell you, there's a reason why they don't want to tell you. The next question, number 3. Do you support the rights of law-abiding Americans to purchase and possess magazines that have the capacity to hold any number of rounds? Now, there will be some liberals and there will be some Democrats that will be watching this video. Let me tell you that clips is not the right term. Clips, this is not a clip. This is called a magazine. There were clips that went in M1 Garands back in the day, and they did not look like this. They were simply a little clip that held a round of bullets together, and you slid it in there, but it was not a box like a box magazine is. This is called a magazine. So our first guy, Rob Anderson, responds to the high capacity magazine, and I say high capacity magazine, it's a normal, it's a whatever capacity magazine. There is no such thing as a high capacity magazine. A 30 round magazine is actually a standard capacity magazine. A 10 round magazine is a low capacity magazine. Rob Anderson simply responded yes. He does support our rights to own standard capacity magazines. Okay, good on you, Rob. Clay Higgins, number 3, he says yes as well. He supports our rights to have them. Verone Thomas, who is our Democrat or one of our Democrats, he says yes, he supports us having any amount of magazines, any amount of rounds in any kind of magazine we want. Aaron Andrus, Aaron, who is our Libertarian, responds yes, simply yes, no elaboration whatsoever. Josh Guillory, who is our Republican, responds yes, he does support yours and my right to own standard capacity magazines. Mimi Methvin, who is again our Democrat, one of our Democrats, she responds via her website, no, she does not support your owning, purchasing, possessing standard capacity magazines or me. And her reason, I will also support banning extended ammunition clips and bump stocks that turn semi-automatic weapons into machine guns. Mimi, if you lose the race, you can call me anytime you want to educate you on guns. I'm happy to do that. Because you have so many, this is one sentence. And you have 1, 2, 3, at least 3, possibly 4 things wrong in one sentence. We need to get together. It's time for me to educate you. We surely don't want you taking this to Washington, D.C. If you win the election, come see me, because you're going to look like a fool in Washington, D.C. being all wrong like this. Okay? And our friend Larry Rader, who chose not to respond to us at all, we're going to say no, he does not want you to own standard capacity magazines as well. Larry is very anti-gun, it seems. All right, let's move on to our next question. Our next question is, do you support efforts to harden our schools to protect our children from murderers seeking to do them harm? Okay, Rob Anderson is our first answer, and he responds, yes, he does support hardening our schools. And he goes on to elaborate by saying, many new products are already emerging that make hardening schools more cost effective. We should absolutely support that genre of research and identify paths to funding that would enable schools to deploy these new innovative technologies. Sounds great, Rob. This is coming from a Democrat. Okay, good job, Rob. I think you might have chosen the wrong party to run for, but so far you seem to be as pro-gun as most of us are. Clay Higgins, yes. Clay Higgins does support any efforts to harden schools. Verone Thomas, Democrat, says yes, he does support efforts to harden schools. Aaron Andrus, our Libertarian, Aaron says no, and Aaron elaborates why. No, while I take no issue with trying to curb violence and protect schools, I do take issue with having students having to go through metal detectors on a daily basis and fostering in effect an atmosphere of maximum security within the school system. I'm not sure that running SWAT drills and having metal detectors in school reinforces the precepts of a free society. There truly is very little risk that a child will be killed in a school shooting. I take issue with that because when you are in school, you know that you're free. You mentioned that hardening the schools may make you feel like you're not part of a free society, or again, I'm paraphrasing here. Okay, it doesn't matter to me what the appearance is because I know that I'm free. You can't put things around me to make me feel like I'm suddenly a prisoner if I'm not in fact a prisoner. However, we don't know that we're safe. That's the difference. We know we're free. We don't know we're safe in a soft school. We've created these gun-free zones, which is one of our next questions, and we've made these schools soft targets. So they're easy targets for these clowns out there that want to murder people. So by not hardening these schools and worrying about hurting somebody's feelings because they might not feel free, we're actually exposing them to more danger out there. But in these urban communities like Washington, D.C., I believe Baltimore has them too, where there are no school shootings and no issues involving guns whatsoever, these children go to school every day, their backpacks go through a metal detector, they walk through a metal detector, and there are no gun-related issues. Now, are we okay with making them feel like they're not part of a free society? Because we do make them walk through metal detectors, and it does work. And I can see the kids not complaining any. Because if I'm a child and I go to school and I wake up every other month and I see that there's some wacko out there murdering people, I'm going to be okay knowing that you're doing what you can to harden my school to keep me safe. I would rather you do something physical that I can see that you're making an effort to harden my school than trying to make me feel better about myself and the way the things around me might make me feel. Not a good answer, Aaron. Not a good answer. And I respect that you're a libertarian, and then I get all that. I'm probably, that's probably the thing that makes me not a libertarian, is that I don't agree with that. Again, if I'm in school, make it as hard as you want. I don't care if we got bars on the windows, because you know what? I only got to be there for 12 years, and then I'm moving on. That's not a prison. Okay, moving on. Next up is Josh Guillory. Josh simply answers yes. He's in support of us hardening our schools. Mimi Methvin. I'm going to say that Mimi is not in favor of us hardening our schools. Her answer on her website says the answer to mass murders is not to put more guns in schools, churches, and on our streets. That is a solution to gun manufacturers. No, it's not. The answer is to pass reasonable gun safety regulations which recognize the difference between weapons for hunting and home defense and weapons designed for human massacres. Okay, Mimi, let's add some things to our plate when me and you sit down, because we have a lot to talk about. Because again, you're really, really wrong. You're wanting to talk about mass murders in schools, but you also feel like that you, who doesn't know much about guns, props to your dad for actually hunting, but clearly you don't know much about guns. But you want to go to Washington, D.C. to school me on what guns I can hunt with, use for self-protection, home defense. You want to be the one? When you clearly don't know much about guns, but somehow or another you're going to be the one to educate me? The one who needs educating is going to be doing the educating? No, see, that's what's wrong with Congress. And this is both sides of the aisle. You people go there not knowing much other than how to do this. Yep, 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 yep. When you get there, you act like you're the pros and the experts, and then you try to force us and educate us on how to do things your way, which is the wrong way because it's not backed up with facts and any real information. I'll buy the coffee. You let me know when and where. I mean that. I'm not being facetious. You got my number. It's on the email. Larry Rader, I'm going to tell you, I'm speaking for Larry again. Larry does not support hardening schools. Question number 5. Would you vote in favor of the Hearing Protection Act, which would protect the hearing of law-abiding citizens and their children? The Hearing Protection Act is simply pulling the restrictions off of silencers and suppressors. Oh, before people's heads explode, because again, we know we have some anti-gun people watching. I want you to tell me how many suppressors have been used in the last 30, 40, 50 years, but I'm going to give you some time to do that. My email address is paul@legallyarmedamerica.com. When you find that rash of murders and everything else going on out there using suppressors or silencers, hit me up. Shoot me an email. Oh, but you're going to say it's because they're outlawed. No, they're not. Suppressors are not outlawed. See, that's a big misconception. Just because there are some NFA things that are tied to a particular product in the gun industry, a lot of the Democrats out there and the people who simply don't understand guns, and there are plenty of Republicans too that do this, they say that, oh, well, this is outlawed and that's outlawed. They think machine guns are outlawed. They think silencers and suppressors are outlawed. They're not. They're simply regulated. You pay a $200 tax stamp to the federal government. They give you permission to now have that suppressor if you pass the background check, a very thorough background check, and then you're given your suppressor and you're given your machine gun. Neither of those items are outlawed. So the Hearing Protection Act is simply removing that $200 tax stamp that the government is getting so you can have your permission slip to own something. Rob Anderson says that, yes, he would vote in favor of the Hearing Protection Act. Rob goes on to say, products intended to reduce the noise of a firearm when fired have been both legal and often mandatory in Europe for years. It seems like most people advocating for prohibitions or enhanced regulation of silencers and suppressors are under the impression that those devices eliminate a firearms report entirely. And that's blatantly untrue. However, those devices are shown to reduce hearing loss. It's a no-brainer that we should support making firearm usage safer. Rob, I couldn't have said it better myself. Again, I think you got the wrong letter behind your name. He's exactly right. I mean, Hollywood has done so much to ruin and harm the gun community over the years that one of the things that it's done is a huge disservice to the suppressor manufacturers out there who are trying to make a living, because they give the impression that a silencer makes your gun silent, and it absolutely does not. It still has a very large report, very easily and very definable sound. You simply don't have to wear hearing protection because it doesn't contribute to hearing loss. It's not loud enough in decibels to create enough damage to your ears that you're going to lose some hearing. Okay, Clay Higgins is next about being in favor of the Hearing Protection Act. Clay says yes. This is where Clay elaborates. Congressman Higgins is a co-sponsor. So clearly Clay did not respond to this unless he's talking about himself in third person. But yes, Congressman Higgins is a co-sponsor of the Hearing Protection Act. We confirm that he actually is. Verone Thomas says yes, no elaboration. Verone is in favor of the Hearing Protection Act and would vote for it in favor of. Aaron Andrus says yes, he would vote in favor of the Hearing Protection Act. Let's see, next up we got Josh Guillory. Josh says yes. It is my understanding that the Hearing Protection Act would amend the Internal Revenue Code to eliminate the $200 transfer tax on firearm silencers, and also treat any person who acquires or possesses a firearm silencer as meeting any registration or licensing requirement of the National Firearms Act with respect to such silencer. That's exactly right. The government is still going to stay involved in this. Actually, the silencers will be treated just like a gun. You will fill out the same Form 4473 background check, the NICS background check that you and I both go through now, the federal background check. You're going to fill the same one out if they do in fact deregulate these and make the Hearing Protection Act law. Okay, let's see. Mimi Methvin. You know, she doesn't say anything about suppressors on here, but I'm going to probably give her a no on that she doesn't support that, because all of her other questions are anti-Second Amendment, so we know how she's going to vote. Same goes for Larry Rader. Next up, do you believe a law-abiding citizen should be able to give or sell a gun to a friend or family member without filling out a federal form? That was questions 1 through 5. Next week, we got questions 6 through 10. We hope you will stay tuned next week for those same question-answer situation like we did today. I think you'll find it extremely informative, especially if you are a one-issue voter in many cases like I am. The Second Amendment is extremely important to me. That's why we've devoted these 2 weeks of shows strictly to this topic, rolling into our voting session, which is next month in a couple of weeks. The first week, I think first Tuesday in November. So we hope you guys will follow this series, use this series to decide who you're going to vote for in the 3rd Congressional District.